Excuse me, sir.
What is it? Wait, where's my car?
You owe me $1,750 in towing fees.
Towing fees? Oh, right, I forgot about that. What is happening? I don't feel so good. Huh? How'd I end up at my house?
Sir, you owe $1,750 in hospital fees.
Hospital fees? I didn't even go to a hospital.
I'm still here waiting for my $1,752.
Okay, I just need some more money. I'll go to work and I'll pay you back when I'm done. You've got to be kidding me. Seriously? How am I supposed to get to work if I can't drive my car? Will you at least let me drive to work?
No can do, sir. Not until you pay your fees.
Fine.
Here you go.
Also, we decided to start paying you 30% less. What? This can't be happening! Hello there, fellow Bloxburgers. A lot has gone on in the past few weeks since the release of the update that many are calling the worst update of all time. So today, I'm going to be sharing my opinion on the update, the best ways to avoid the new towing and fainting fees, and basically just everything you need to know about the new job payment system, because as I researched for this video, I found a lot of surprising and useful information. And I know it's been over a month since the update, but part of the reason this video is so late is because I kept finding out more information, and my opinion kept changing because of the new information I'm finding, and because of how I'm hearing other people are affected and things like that. So I've actually had to redo several parts of this video over and over again, just because of the new information I find in my opinion fluctuating. But there will also be timestamps in this video if you want to skip to the part you want. So for example, my opinion kind of changes slightly on different topics as we go, because again, I've been making this for the past month, and so my opinion at the beginning of the month was different than my opinion in the middle of the month and different than my opinion now. But at the very end of this video, and you can skip ahead if you would like, I have my final opinion on this update. Up to this date, of course, things they add in future updates may change that, but now that I've had a month, I feel like I kind of know everything there is to know, and I kind of have my final opinion on it. And so if you're curious about my opinion, feel free to skip to that. If you want to know tips to avoid the towing and fainting fees, the tips that I've been using, and since week 1 of the update, have not gotten a fine once. It's been extremely helpful. You can skip to that. Or if you want to know how much all the jobs make, do they make the same? Are there better jobs to work at? Or maybe how much the pay was changed? Because when we talk about the change of pay, there's a lot of different information out there across different people testing it out, across different YouTubers testing it out, even Bloxburg themselves. I believe they've told us that the pay is 20% different, 20% less for the top 2 paying jobs, fast food worker and pizza delivery, and I did not find that to be true. So I'm not sure exactly why I'm getting a different amount than they're saying when they said they've done heavy testing. I'm not sure, but if you're curious on what I found over and over and over again to be the true change in pay, you can skip ahead to that, or even if you want to skip ahead to my recommendation on what jobs are the best to work at now, for money-making reasons or fainting reasons, all of that stuff, feel free to skip through. Of course, I encourage you to watch it all the way through because there is a lot of good information in this video. It is a long video, but it is packed with my opinion, tips, all sorts of information I've found. And I personally have appreciated going through this because I really feel now like I understand exactly what's going on and how to best approach the new job payment system, the new fees, all that stuff. So I hope you find this video helpful too, but that's enough of me talking. On to the rest of the video. First off, I want to clarify some misinformation that has been going around. The Excellent Employee and Marvelous Moods game passes are not useless. Far from it, in fact. Your moods still decrease slower with Marvelous Moods than without it, and you can still turn negative mood effects off. So it's still extremely useful. And later in this video, I'll also show you some extremely easy ways that you can boost your moods. I honestly think following those strategies will make fainting not a big deal. And with Marvelous Moods, you also have double the time to boost your moods once you've received the fainting notification. So still extremely useful, especially for the price, and I'm so grateful that I can turn negative mood effects off and my moods decrease slower, allowing me to make more money. When it comes to the Excellent Employee Game Pass, you still make more money and are promoted faster than someone without the Game Pass. They decrease the pay in delivery person and fast food worker overall, but you are still making more with the Game Pass. And Bloxburg actually changed how your paycheck looks to show you how much money you have earned by having the Excellent Employee Game Pass, which is really nice because it now shows you straight up exactly how much the Game Pass is making you. Again, still an incredibly useful Game Pass, the new update hasn't made it any less valuable. Now with that out of the way, it's time to talk about why Bloxburg decided to introduce towing and fainting fees and why they changed the pay of the jobs. First off, let's talk about towing fees. Bloxburg has said that their purpose is to add an aspect of realism to the game. Another possibility is that they were also introduced as another balancer of the economy, because game economies are tricky things and it's rare that a game has a perfect economy. But one thing that does kill many game economies is when there's too much money consistently flooding into the economy. So the way to prevent an economy from becoming messed up is to add features that remove money. Bloxburg has already better off than some games because most players spend their money on their builds, and then when you go to bulldoze your builds or delete items, you don't get all of your money back. That's also why we have bills in the game, it's just to balance the economy, because if there is money being generated into the game, there must also be ways to remove money from the game. So towing fees could be another way to do that, and I'm not really sure I'm a huge fan of towing fees, especially with things like the Elbaphant in mind, or like the Bloxburg tradition of driving off the cliff into the ocean. You'd now have to rush back to your plot to respawn your car before it's towed, but I think we will get used to it just fine. In fact, I pretty much already am. So far when I've been working, I'm already pretty much in the habit of parking in most places, so I think it'll take a little bit of getting used to, but after that, I really don't think it'll be that big of a deal. Now, we already have bills and bulldozing. When you delete items, you don't get all of your money back, so were towing fees really necessary? I'll get to that in just a minute, but first, let's also talk about fainting fees. Bloxburg has said that the reasons hospital fees exist are so that people can't AFK and farm money using the new job payment system, to add a touch of realism and immersion to the game, and to give the mood system more of a use. Now, once again, was this necessary? I'll talk about that in just a minute, because there's one last big change we need to go over, and that is the pay. So as you know, the pay was also changed in the most recent update, and I'll go over exactly how much the pay was raised or decreased depending on the job in just a little bit. But first, I want to talk about why the pay was changed. The new efficiency-based payment system was actually introduced into the game back in August of 2023, when Bloxburg revamped Bloxburgers. The purpose of the system is to ensure that all jobs make the same amount of money, and as I'll show you later, the system works insanely well. And as Bloxburg said, this will help build the foundation for future job updates, including revamps and new jobs. Because after all, if they added a new job that paid less than pizza delivery, no one would really work there. So they kind of have to make them all work the same, because they also can't keep making new jobs or revamped jobs pay more and more and more and more every single time. So I do personally think making them all pay the same was a good decision. Now, unfortunately, what has upset most players is their decision to lower the pay of the high-paying jobs and raise the pay of the low-paying jobs, rather than just raising the pay of the low-paying jobs. Yes, decreased pay in some jobs and these fees may be frustrating and upsetting, I do understand, but ultimately, the Bloxburg development team has made this change for a reason. Their goal is not to make everyone upset and lose players because of it. And as a company, they think through every single update and every single change they're making to the game. So it's not just like somebody randomly decided one day, you know what, I'm gonna change the pay. I know for a fact there were reasons behind it. Now, we may not know those reasons, but that's just something that we have to trust the Bloxburg developers about. They have also said before that they add things in the game months before their main purpose is even known. And we've seen that several times in the last year where random changes were made for an update months down the line. So my main point here is to just be patient. Just hang in there and wait it out for a little while. We made it known that we don't love that we now make less. But the thing is, they knew we wouldn't. Again, it's not like they thought we're just going to decrease the pay because why not? Surely nobody will care. Obviously, they knew this would be a huge change and they knew most people would be upset about it, which in my mind makes me believe this change was made for a reason. Obviously, if they were going to make a change that they knew would upset the players, it had to have been for an important reason. It just may be a reason that we don't quite yet know. But I do just encourage you to keep an open mind and wait. Bloxburg isn't trying to purposely ruin their economy. They're not purposely trying to lose players. Their goal isn't to upset everyone and just make it harder for everyone. At the end of the day, they want to make a game that's enjoyable and fun, and that's why I believe this is just a necessary step towards making this a better game. But we've made our opinions known, and now we just gotta see and wait. So now comes the question, was any of this necessary? Did Bloxburg have to add fees, and did they need to lower the pay? The answer is kind of tricky. Bloxburg themselves actually said recently that the reason for the change of pay is to help balance the economy and prevent it from falling apart. But you may be wondering, what do you mean, Bloxburg? The economy wasn't falling apart before. And it's not like it made things more even, because almost everybody only worked as a pizza delivery person or fast food worker because they made more anyways. So now pretty much everybody's just making less. And that's where things kind of get confusing. Was this change really necessary to balance the economy? Unfortunately, I'm not so sure. I do know, as I've said before, that too much money flooding into the economy does cause a lot of problems, and I've seen this firsthand in some other Roblox games, but I also don't think there was too much money flooding in because the economy seemed to be fine before the update. I do have one theory though. I believe this change was made with future updates in mind, specifically the open marketplace update, because Bloxburg has said that the current pre-built house catalog is only temporary while they work out all the concerns of adding an open marketplace for players to upload their houses in the future, because you have to figure out how it would work, if people would get paid, moderation, etc. Now, why does the marketplace have anything to do with how much we would get paid? Well, it's very possible that if you were to upload your house to this open marketplace and somebody were to buy it, you'd get some money from it. And that right there is a very probable reason as to why they lowered the pay. You can't make a ton of money from your job and also a ton of money from the marketplace, so they'd have to kind of nerf both to make things more equal. But for now, that's just a theory. Unfortunately, we will have to wait for the update to find out. I do also want to mention that Bloxburg is still a work in progress, as we can clearly see by the prompt that you get every time you join the game, and so changes like this are just bound to happen. When you have a game that is being worked on, it's going to have to adapt for future updates, and it's going to have to change as things are added. Their purpose is not to make it less fun. They don't want to ruin their game. So as much as we'd like to make more, we have to trust Bloxburg in their decision. Now, it's perfectly fine to peacefully protest these changes and let the Bloxburg team know about our opinions. It should never go to the extremes that some people took it to, but for the most part that most people are doing, just the peaceful protest is totally fine. It is okay not to be happy with these changes and to express that. The other truth is, and Bloxburg actually said this themselves in their most recent YouTube video, where they kind of explain exactly what changed and why the changes were made, that pizza delivery person made more than it was intended to. The truth is, it was kind of an incredibly boosted job, whether we really want to admit it or not. I mean, the fact that we could make hundreds of thousands of dollars in an hour is pretty insane. But I do also see the side of the more you play the game, the more advanced you get, the more basic shapes, the more structurals you start using, bills begin to cost insane amounts. It's like, I don't really know how I feel about that, especially because I feel like the longer you play, like if you've been playing a long time where you have your jobs leveled up, I feel like you should be able to make more because most likely you are spending more. Because everybody, as they play and they build more and they become more experienced, their builds become more detailed and therefore they get more expensive. So that definitely does make things harder as things continue to get more expensive. Bloxburg has more expensive items, and as people become more detailed in their builds and become more expensive, people are just gonna have to spend more time. But again, if they add like a marketplace feature in the future, then still hopefully you'd make as much, if not more money total in the game. Some from your job, some from the open marketplace. And maybe like it would even be cool to see like some sort of investment system where you can have like a bank account. Like this kind of concept has been floating around for a couple years, but like you could put your money in a bank account and you could earn some money over time, or even like invest in stocks and then they rise and fall and that kind of a thing. Will Bloxburg ever add that? I don't know, but this just kind of does prepare for more money making opportunities. And again, an open marketplace is confirmed. So hopefully that will give us another way to make money. But Bloxburg's decision to nerf the pay of the top 2 paying jobs is totally acceptable because again, they were kind of boosted jobs. Do I love it? Of course not. Nobody wants to make less money, but I do understand their intentions and I trust that they want to make this game more enjoyable and accessible for all players, which I think that was also a big aim of this update, was to make it easier for new players. I don't think the change in pay comes down to that. I think it's more of the equal pay across all jobs than the new system itself. But in the end, it is what it is. It looks like Bloxburg is going to keep this update. So we just gotta hang in there. Hopefully we will get a new way to make money soon. And I love that I can now explore all the jobs without worrying about making less. But with that in mind, in the meantime, as we wait for this open marketplace or whatever this change was made for, whatever its purpose and reason was, let's go ahead and make the most of it. So when it comes to towing fees, I suggest you get in the habit of parking your car everywhere you go. Pretty obvious. Good news is that there are quite a few parking lots around the map, so you shouldn't have to walk too far from your parking spot to your destination, unless your destination is randomly like in the middle of the grass somewhere on the map. There's even one by the mountains, so when you go paragliding, you don't have to worry about your car being towed. And Bloxburg also now highlights the parking spots around the map when you are stopped or at a slow speed in your vehicle. Thankfully, Bloxburg has said that they plan to change how this looks because, you can see why people don't like it. I also think we should have the ability to turn it off in settings because when you're role-playing or going around town, you, or at least I, would hate to see this massive blue box pop up on top of every single parking space. And even when they make it look nicer, I still think we should have the ability to turn it off. I actually thought this would be much harder to get used to, but I've actually already found it pretty easy and I'm mostly already used to this change. Especially the bar that pops up above your car. Like immediately I hop out of my car if I had forgotten and I'm like, oh, I need to park my car. It's very obvious. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. And you do have a whole 5 minutes to go park it somewhere else. So you do have 5 minutes to get out for something real quick. And you can even sit in it to restart the timer. So if the timer starts to go down, you can just go ahead and press use again and then get back out and the timer will restart. So you don't even necessarily really have to park it. And then for the hospital fee, you can use your backpack to boost your moods. And you will only start to faint when your moods collectively hit 60%, I believe. So something as simple as reading a book while you're walking around can boost your fun up to 100%, which is actually more than you need to prevent fainting. You can use beauty products to boost your hygiene and a fridge or Bloxburgers or Pizza Planet to grab something to eat. You can also boost your energy by just sitting down for a minute, either on a chair or on the ground anywhere on the map. Both of those will work. And try not to sit there bored as you do that. Just equip a hygiene and fun boosting item in your hotbar, and whenever you're walking around somewhere just waiting around, pull out the items and use them while you're doing something, so that it doesn't seem like you're wasting your time. They actually just recently changed a little bit how fees work, and so I wanted to throw this in here real quick. So when the fainting timer reaches its end, instead of fainting, instead you'll be prompted with a notification that'll allow you to pay some money instead of fainting, and it's actually less money than actually fainting. And if you go ahead and pay the money, you'll actually get 10 extra minutes to go and boost your moods. And then if you boost your moods, you won't have to pay the fee for fainting. So you actually don't have to pay the full fee. You could just pay half if you then go boost your moods in those next 10 minutes. Also, important thing to note, if you have automatically pay bills on, it will just automatically pay that and give you 10 more minutes, which is actually pretty nice because then you never actually technically have to worry about fainting. You will just lose money every time the 10 minutes goes by without you boosting your moods. Now, the next question that brings up is, what about when I'm working? Can I still work for long periods at a time without fainting? The The answer is yes, you can 100% work for long periods of time still. In fact, thanks to the backpack, you can be working for hour shifts and make more money than you would have before. Because before, working long shifts, your moods would go down, and you could keep working. You could keep working as long as you want because there was no fainting, but your moods would be down, so you'd be making less. But now with the backpack, because you can boost your moods, you can actually make more. First off, I do just want to remind you that your moods need to be over 60% collectively to avoid fainting. So that means adding all of your moods up, as long as they're collectively over 60%, you're good. Which means that all you need to do to avoid fainting is to have one of your mood bars be over 60%. You can easily do this in every job by simply pressing your avatar, pressing the emotes button, pressing others, and then pressing sit, and then by sitting on the ground anywhere on the map you will gain energy. So that solves the fainting problem, but obviously that's not ideal because as soon as your energy drops back to 60%, you're going to have to boost them again. This is where our trusty backpacks come in. Now unfortunately, using backpack items will not work in all 12 jobs because it would require you to equip an item. And since the woodcutter, fisherman, miner, and janitor job all require you to be holding an item while in your shift, equipping a backpack item would kick you out of your shift, but I'll show you some other methods later that you can use to boost your moods in those jobs. But for the rest of the jobs, using various items found in our backpacks, we can boost both hygiene and fun. So we now have 3 moods covered: hygiene, energy, and fun. Unfortunately, when it comes to hunger, the only job that you can eat in without ending your shift is delivery person. In fact, as a delivering person, you can even drive to your plot and boost all 4 of your moods at your plot. As long as you stay close enough to your moped, you'll be just fine. But let's talk about the backpack items that can boost your hygiene and fun. I looked through a variety of items and decided that these 2 types of items are going to be the best. Starting with fun, I recommend storing your favorite plushie in your hotbar because all the stuffed animals, or stuffed creatures, I guess I should say, I wouldn't necessarily consider an alien an animal, but all of the plushies will give you 3 pluses towards boosting your fun. And that surprised me considering that the best TVs only give you 5 pluses towards boosting your fun, so that's great. Now for hygiene. This one is a little bit more complicated because out of all of the items I tried, I wasn't finding a backpack item that gave you more than 1 plus towards your hygiene. What I did find though were a group of hygiene items that after applying them, give you 60 seconds of +1 hygiene. And they're stackable, meaning you can use 3 hygiene items in a row to get 60 seconds of 3 pluses toward your hygiene. And as soon as those products are applied, during these 60 seconds you can go back to work and you don't even need to be holding the item like you would the plushie. Now unfortunately, these 3 pluses do boost your hygiene pretty slowly because they aren't actual full pluses. Basically it says it's giving you +1 hygiene to show that your hygiene is going up, but it's not actually the equivalent of a full plus, if that makes sense. So it does boost your hygiene, but unfortunately it's pretty slow. 3 hygiene items that work this way that you can use are the skin moisturizer, straightening iron, and luxury fragrance spray. But I'm sure there are many more, so feel free to look around for your own 3 beauty items you'd like to use. Also, another quick note to add: if you're working the fast food worker job, you only need a plushie because you can sit down at any table for energy and use the restroom for hygiene. And then of course you can use the plushie for fun, all without leaving your job. Now during my research, I was able to find one job that would allow you to never have to worry about fainting, and that is the hairdresser. You see, unlike any other job in the game, hairdresser allows you to be holding an item while you're doing your tasks. This means that you can be constantly holding your plushie and never get a notification of fainting because your fun will always be at 100%. Now there are a few other jobs where you can do this. Regain Riot actually brought this to my attention. If you haven't checked out his video titled How to Make Your First $1 Million in Bloxburg, definitely do so. In his video, he goes over the best methods to make money and how the payment system now works, and he probably explained it all better than me, so his video might be helpful. But Fisherman will also allow you to do this. If you go fishing in your pool, your fun and hygiene will constantly go up, allowing you to constantly work without having to worry about fainting. Woodcutter is another good job because you can cut down trees anywhere on the map. So you can cut down trees by your plot, or you can drive to your plot and then boost your moods at your mood station, because you can actually drive a car without ending your shift. You can't use a shower or bathtub or eat during your shift, but you can boost your fun by watching TV and energy by sitting down in a chair. Janitor cannot use backpack items, but you can drive to your plot and use your mood station to boost your energy and hygiene. Or you can of course just sit down on the ground. So I'd recommend working as a hairdresser, fisherman, pizza delivery, fast food worker, or woodcutter. There are also some jobs where you can sit while you work. Pizza baker is one example of that, although unfortunately with pizza baker you would have to stand up every few minutes to restock. But while you are actually making the pizzas, you can sit down and have your energy go up. Just wanted to throw that in there. And real quick, I'll go ahead and go over each job and whether or not you can use a backpack item. And again, you can sit in any job, so that covers your energy. But as a woodcutter, you cannot use backpack items, but you can cut down trees by your plot and use your mood station when you need to boost your moods. Miner, the only option you have unfortunately is to sit down to boost your energy. Fisherman, you cannot use backpack items, but you can go fishing in your pool or the ocean, but sometimes you get stuck, so I'd recommend fishing in your pool. Regain Riot goes into more explanation about this in his video, but that will cover your fun and hygiene, and you can set up a chair right outside the pool which will cover your energy. So you can boost all your moods except hunger at your plot as a fisherman. Janitor cannot use backpack items, but you can drive to your plot and use your mood station to boost your energy and hygiene. Or you can of course just sit down on the ground. Seller at Ben's Ice Cream does allow you to use the backpack items without being kicked from your job, job, but only if an ice cream cup is not currently in your hands. So basically, you can boost your moods as long as you're not taking an order. Same with pizza baker, as long as you are not carrying an ingredient box. Cashier, as long as you are not restocking the bags. Same with mechanic, as long as a car part is not in your hand. Stalker, as long as a crate isn't in your hand, which basically means you're going to have to pause what you're doing to boost your moods, because you're pretty much always holding a crate. And then we have fast food worker, which you can sit down at a table for energy, use the restroom for hygiene, and a plushie for fun. But you can only use the plushie as long as you are not doing a task. Delivery person, you can boost all your moods at your plot as long as you are close to your moped, or use inventory items as long as the pizza is not in your hands. And finally, hairdresser, which allows you to always have a backpack item equipped. Now when it comes to jobs, I have worked for about 20 minutes at every job, and here's what I found. First off, let me go over how the efficiency-based pay system works. So first off, to increase your efficiency, you'll have to do a few tasks at your job. After completing a few tasks, your efficiency will be at 100% and will remain there unless you take a long enough break in between tasks. If you take too long, your efficiency will start to drain and will continue to drain until you complete another task. Interestingly, your moods no longer contribute to your efficiency. It used to be that 30% of your efficiency was based on your moods, but now it is entirely based on you continually doing your job. Now, moods still do affect how much you earn. The lower your moods are, the less you will make. Another thing to note is that the paying system pays you per task based on the amount of time since your last task was completed. So there is no longer a need to try to move as fast as you can in your job. You can now take your time knowing that you will make just as much as if you were moving as fast as humanly possible. I tried this multiple times in several different jobs, going really fast and then like literally taking like 30-second breaks in between tasks, sometimes a minute break, and I got the same amount. You also get paid a little bit every 15 seconds you spend in your job. From what I've seen, it seems to hover around the same number for a while, and then eventually once you're moved lower, it starts to decrease by like $1 or so every 15 seconds. Another thing to note is Bloxburg did add a cap to how much you can make per minute. The cap is $2,625, and it's the same for every job. And this means, unfortunately, that the most you can possibly make it in any job in 10 minutes is $26,250, and in 20 minutes, $52,500. Now for the part I'm sure you all want to know is if there's a new best job, and just how much less does fast food worker and delivery person make, as well as how much more does every other job make. So I worked at every job for 20 minutes, and here's what I found. Also, do want to mention that all these tests were run with the Excellent Employee Game Pass, the Marvelous Moods Game Pass, which again, because your moods low or slower, you can make more money, and level 100 in the overall job progression, which if you didn't know, back in August of 2023, they made it so that your overall job level is what determines your money, not your individual job levels. Those only matter now if you want the items, money, and block bucks you can unlock by leveling up in each job. So the playing field should be very even. First off, for fast food worker, I made about 48k in 20 minutes, and do note that it doesn't matter whether you're manning the cash register or working in the kitchen, you'll make basically the same amount. Before the update, I would make roughly 70k in this amount of time, and that's a decrease in earnings of over 30%. That is actually a pretty large number. In other words, you now make almost an entire third less than before. So that is actually quite a bit. It's the exact same thing for delivery person. I made roughly 49,000 in 20 minutes. Before the update, I made roughly 70,000 in 20 minutes. So that's, again, roughly, it's all roughly, because it can vary slightly, but it's roughly a 30% decrease in earnings, which again is a pretty substantial decrease in earnings. Another thing I want to add is that eventually all the jobs will pay you for leveling up, just like the fast food worker job does, because when they revamped that job back in August of 2023, they made it so that every time you level up, you earn some money. And of course, the higher the level, the more money you would make from that. So I think it starts at like a couple $100 when you level up, and then eventually when you're leveling up at the high levels, you'll make a couple $1,000s. Of course, this doesn't compensate completely for making less. In fact, it's not even close, but it does help to know that eventually we will earn some money for leveling up in all the jobs, just like we do in fast food worker. And so hopefully they'll get to revamping all of the jobs soon. But now for one of the previously lower paying jobs, the janitor. This is the only job that I can roughly compare previous earnings to current earnings, because it's the only job I have a rough idea of what I used to make, because I've been working that pretty often recently. So in 20 minutes, I used to make about 20 to 25k working as a janitor, I believe. And now I make between 47,300 and 48,500 20 minutes. And I'll explain why that job specifically has a pretty big range to it in just a minute. But that's anywhere from a 41% to a 52% increase in earnings. Now, the reason there's a range for how much this job makes is because of whether you sprint or not. Most jobs, you are staying in one spot while you work, but as a janitor, you are moving around cleaning up messes. And in case you didn't know, sprinting does slowly decrease your moods, which over time can affect your earnings. So by sprinting from one mess to another, I made about 47,300, but by not sprinting, I made $48,500 because my moods weren't being drained as quickly. And I'd assume this is the same for the stalker and woodcutter job, but I haven't personally tested it. But my advice, just don't sprint while you're working. Also, all of the jobs work the same except for miner. It used to be that the basic stone only took a couple hits of your pickaxe and gave you very little money. And then as you go further and you find ores that are more rare, it would take you longer to break them and you get more money. But in order to kind of like balance the jobs and everything, Bloxburg made it so that now every ore, no matter what it is, takes 5 hits to break and gives you the same money. So unfortunately, rarity pay, and the further down you go doesn't really matter anymore for that job. Also, TNT works the same way. So instead of, I think it was 7 hits it used to be, it's now 5 hits. And actually, when it blows stuff up, you used to get a ton of money for all of the stone and ore that's being blown up. But now when you break it, I think you get the exact same money as you would get for breaking 1 stone or 1 ore. So now all TNT does is just kind of blow up the room around you. Now let's talk about which job makes more. Here are the amounts I made in 20 minutes at each job. They weren't kidding when they said they made every job pay the same. That is crazy. So in order from most earnings to least earnings, we have delivery person making $49,200, stalker making $49,200 as well, pizza baker and mechanic made $48,700, janitor and hairdresser made $48,500, fisherman, seller, cashier, fast food worker, miner, and woodcutter all made $48,400. So there you have it. Obviously, these amounts may vary a little bit, but that is just what I found. So basically, they all make about the same amount now. It really does not matter what job you work at. But now for my final opinion, I'm just gonna go ahead and go over each thing really quickly and just explain what my final opinion on it is now that it has been a month. I think overall wise in the update, I don't think I'm a huge fan of it. At first I was like, it's an okay update, it's decent. I'm not so much for the update. I am still one to be neutral usually when it comes to things like this, and I typically want to try to support the developers in their decisions and want to keep an open mind. I want to wait it out. I want to see if it'll get better in the future. But overall, as it is right now, I don't think I love it. I'm gonna start talking about the fees. Towing fees and fainting fees. Whether or not they're necessary, you know, they say fainting fee is necessary, towing fee really isn't. The goal was to like deepen immersion and add like another aspect of realism. Starting with the towing fee, I don't think it needed to be added, especially with the fact that when your car is towed, you have to go back to your plot to get the car again, so just adding the fact that you have to pay money on top of that, you know, I don't know that it's necessary. Fainting fees, I get that they were wanting to add an aspect to moods, and so I think when it comes to fees, I think my overall opinion is I don't really mind them, honestly. I think I could go either way, but just using the tips in this video, like getting in the habit of parking, I've been able to park everywhere, and if I forget, the blue bar 5-minute timer pops up right on my screen the minute I step out of my car, and I get the notification. It's like I would have to really try and really ignore it for me to get a fee for my car, but I of course don't want to pay, so the minute I see that or I forget, which happens very rare because I'm pretty much in the habit of parking all the time, but then I would go park it because I don't want the fee, of course. Or like even when I'm going up to somebody's plot, instead of parking on the road, I'll just move my car so that I'm enough on their plot to where it won't get towed. Same with fainting fees. Every time I get the notification that I'm going to faint, I just equip an Elbaphant plushie, and there we go, I'm good to go. Until I go and actually boost my moves for like going to work, but I just keep that equipped the whole time, and I'm covered. So overall, fees, I don't mind them. I haven't had an issue with them. I understand both sides. It's kind of cool, the realism aspect of it maybe, but I also see how for some people it could be frustrating or challenging, but that's why, again, I really encourage you to take advantage of these tips. Just try to discover your own, play around with it, but I really think if you find some good tips like equipping a plushie for your fun, it really does make a difference and really does make fainting really not an issue at all. Of course, unless you're like role-playing, you don't want to have the plushie equipped all the time, like, but at the same time, you just could boost your moods as like the realism of the roleplay. But my personal opinion, I could go either way with it. And then the second major change is the pay. I do not think I really like it at all anymore. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not gonna quit Bloxburg because of it. In fact, for me to want to quit Bloxburg, they'd have to do something really bad to the game because I love Bloxburg. I haven't found any game that comes close to Bloxburg's building, and just my love for it, the feel of it. It's such a fun game to play, and I have so many memories with it that they'd have to do something really bad for an update they do to make me want to quit. So I'm still gonna play. I do not like that I make less at all. In fact, the fact that you make 30% less, I've spent a lot of time working the last few days just because I'm in a mood of like, I don't really mind working. Sometimes it sounds kind of fun. So I've been working a lot, and with the amount of time I spent before the update, I would have been a couple $100,000 richer, which is an insane amount. So no, I do not like the change of pay really at all. I do not like that we made less, but I'm here to wait it out. Was it really necessary to balance the economy? I'm not so sure. I feel like I could see both sides, and I don't really know the truth of how important it was, but I'm here to wait it out. You know, hopefully an open marketplace will allow us to make some money since that's coming. Absolutely love that all jobs pay the same. That is absolutely amazing, because then I can work at any job I want when I feel like it. Don't have to worry about making less, and every new job they update and revamp doesn't have to be the new best. Of course, that you can't keep doing that, and so that way some jobs aren't just like useless. I do think this was their best solution to this. I do not think having some jobs pay more than others was a really good thing, so I think having them all pay the same is good. Of course, I don't necessarily though love that like mining, it was kind of fun, like the further down you went, the better resources you get, the more hits they took, the more money you made. See, that was kind of fun, and so unfortunately the fact that they had to take that away is a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, what we have now I think is overall better, the fact that they all pay the same, so that I can work at Miner without making like $8,000 in 20 minutes compared to like the $70,000 I would make at fast food worker. And the fact that all your jobs are calculated in your overall work experience, that's good. Your individual job level is for the plaque at the end, eventually be for some rewards like money, items. I think that's good. When it comes to how the pay system works, I don't know that I love that they changed it so that your moods aren't reflected in your efficiency, because I really like seeing when my moods got low, my efficiency also went down, so I could see that, oh, I'm not making as much money. Now it's a lot harder to tell. In fact, the only way to really tell is if you were like paying attention to the bottom left corner of your screen when it gives you your payout every 15 seconds, or just the money you start making for every task you do, you just notice starts going down. But I really like seeing it in your efficiency so you can tell, oh, my efficiency is at 90%. I am obviously not making as much as I could if I had my moods up or if I had my efficiency higher. Now it's just always high. It's just dependent on your tasks. I did like when you could see your moods reflected in your efficiency. Not the end of the world though. It's not really a big deal. And I will say, I don't know that I love that it rewards you for working longer and why that really needs to be necessary, because when you start your shift, you have to build up your efficiency a little bit. Like you have to do a couple tasks to get it up to 100%. So if you like were working for 3 minutes because you just wanted some money, or maybe you started working and 3 minutes in you had to go, or you had to do something, you had to take a break, or whatever the reason is, or even if you accidentally get out of your job, this is especially a problem with woodcutter because the button to press use on your axe is right next to the button to press the X, and pressing the X kicks you out of your shift. But when any of those happen, when you restart, you now have to build up your efficiency again, and while you build up your efficiency, you're not making very much money, which is why they say working for longer you make more, up until a certain point where your moods go down, of course. But I don't know why that really needs to be necessary, like why we can't just the first task make money, why we're like kind of being forced to work like, okay, now it's really important you work 15-20 minute shifts at a time. There may be a reason for this, I just don't know. To me it doesn't seem off the bat super necessary, and it is kind of interesting, and I don't know that I love it, but at the same time it's not a huge deal. I mean, just work for another couple minutes. Worst case, you have to restart. You don't lose out on that much money. When it comes to the items in this update, they were amazing. Especially the, I don't know the name to it, but the more modern looking furniture set. I love that furniture set so much. Looks so good. And just all the furniture that they added. The bifold doors, absolutely incredible. I love that so much. The animation is so good. So when it comes to furniture items, I think they did a great job. Personally, after conducting these experiments, I feel a lot better about the update. Personally, I think the 30% less lower pay in the delivery person job and the fast food worker job is 100% worth the 50% increase in all the other jobs. I love that it's more worth it now to work all the other jobs, and that there's more of a reason, and it doesn't feel like a wasted time because you're barely earning anything. Now, of course, I wish all jobs made what pizza delivery used to make, but it is what it is. I'd rather this, though, than some overpowered jobs and some jobs that are not worth working at like we used to have. And again, I just encourage you to wait. It's very possible they'll introduce other money-making methods in the future. So yeah, I think that's kind of my final opinion on this whole update. Don't love it. I really don't like making less pay. I mean, I'm not like crazy upset or anything about it. I'm gonna keep playing and working. It doesn't really affect me. But of course, I mean, I would like to make more. I would have liked to have made $70,000 in 20 minutes rather than $45,000, $50,000, right? It just means I have to work more. Not a big deal. I could work more, but it would have been nice to not make less, of course. So I would say don't love it, but I don't have a huge negative opinion on it. I wouldn't say I really have much of a positive opinion on it either. I feel like it's mostly neutral, slightly negative. I guess I'd say what my opinion is. But in the meantime, I hope this video can help you make the best of the update, helping you avoid fees as best as possible, and educating you on what's changed on how exactly jobs now work. I've already been able to adjust to the new fees very easily, and I hope you do too. Feel free to leave your opinions, theories, and suggestions about all of this down below. And as always, if you enjoyed, thumbs up the video, consider subscribing, and have a wonderful rest of your day.